War is often remembered by its battles, by the lines on a map, the cities taken, the armies that moved across continents. But some of the most important stories never appear on those maps. They happen in silence, in small villages, in hidden valleys, in places where no army stands. But everything is at risk. In 1944, hundreds of American airmen fell from the sky into enemy territory. They should have been captured. They should have disappeared. But instead, they were hidden, protected, saved. This was not a mission of conquest. It was a mission of survival. This was Operation Halyard. And this is War Files Uncovered. By 1944, Allied bombers were flying deep into Eastern Europe. Their targets were critical: oil fields in Romania, industrial centers fueling the German war machine. These missions were dangerous. Heavy anti-aircraft fire filled the skies. Enemy fighters hunted relentlessly. Planes were hit, and when they were, crews had one choice: jump. Parachutes opened over foreign land, fields, forests, mountains, but below them was occupied Yugoslavia, German-controlled territory, where capture was expected, and escape was nearly impossible. In most of Europe, downed airmen were quickly captured. German patrols searched landing zones. Local collaborators reported sightings. Captured airmen were sent to prison camps, interrogated, processed, removed from the war. It was a system, efficient, relentless. But in Yugoslavia, something disrupted that system. The first airmen to land in rural Serbia expected the worst. Instead, they were met by farmers, villagers who spoke little or no English, had almost nothing to spare, understood the risk instantly, and still, they chose to help. Airmen were hidden in barns, given civilian clothing, fed from already scarce supplies. German patrols passed through villages regularly. If an airman was discovered, the consequences would be immediate. Execution, not just for the airman, for anyone who helped him. And still, they helped. Behind this effort was a larger force, a resistance movement led by Draža Mihailović. His fighters, known as the Chetniks, controlled large rural areas. They organized safe routes, protected villages, coordinated movement of airmen. It was not perfect. The war in Yugoslavia was complex, divided. Political tensions ran deep, but for the airmen, the result was the same. They were alive. Weeks turned into months. More planes were shot down. More airmen arrived. Soon, there were hundreds, hidden, waiting, living in silence. They could not return to Allied lines. They could not signal for help. They could only trust that someone would come. Back in Allied command, reports began to surface. Airmen, missing, but not captured, possibly alive. The Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, began to investigate. What they found was extraordinary. Hundreds of American airmen, alive behind enemy lines. The solution would require something unprecedented, a rescue from within enemy territory. There was no airfield, no infrastructure, no safe landing zone, so the villagers built one, by hand, in secret, using shovels, oxen, bare hands. They flattened a field near the village of Pranjani. Every movement was hidden, every sound controlled. Because if the Germans discovered it, everything would be lost. In August 1944, the first aircraft arrived, a C-47 transport plane, flying low, at night, without lights. The landing was risky, the field was rough, the margins were thin, but it worked. The plane touched down, and for the first time, the rescue began. Night after night, planes returned. Airmen were brought in small groups, guided through darkness, protected until the last moment. Engines roared, doors closed, and planes lifted off, back toward Allied territory. Each flight carried more than passengers. It carried survival. At any moment, the Germans could discover the operation. Patrols moved nearby. Intelligence networks listened. One mistake, one betrayal, would end everything. But the operation held. Quiet, precise, relentless. By the end of Operation Halyard, over 500 Allied airmen had been rescued. No rescue aircraft were lost. It was one of the most successful behind enemy lines rescue missions of the war. And almost no one knew. When the war ended, the story faded. Political realities changed. Yugoslavia moved in a different direction, and the role of Draža Mihailović became controversial. He was later captured, tried, and executed. The story of Operation Halyard was buried with him. There were no medals for the villagers, no recognition for the families who risked everything, no headlines for the quiet nights when planes landed in secret and carried men back to safety. But the impact remains. Hundreds of lives saved, not by armies, not by strategy, but by people who chose to act. This was Operation Halyard, the rescue behind enemy lines, and this is War Files Uncovered.